Aloha. This video I wanted to go into my perspectives on the intent of dystopian movies and in particular this Blade Runner movie, the new one, and just kind of go into how it relates to the difference between what I've been explaining of humanity and inhumanity, that which is natural and that which is synthetic, and how it all gets pieced together when in our subconscious mind, because that's what this program is based upon, controlling people with, is with your subconscious thoughts. It's the alchemy is to control that which is invisible, that which you can't see, to install. The conditioning comes from playing your consciousness one step ahead of you. So this is how you can be, this is how you can walk through your life blind. This is how you can walk through your life thinking that you're free when you're completely enslaved, is because the bars that make up your cell, your prison cell, are kept about a millimeter away from your furthest reach. So you stick your hand out, and as soon as you stick your hand out, that could be like researching something. Once you research something, those bars, that wall gets pushed to the edge of your fingertips, and then at the edge of your fingertips, that's where your belief systems come into play. And when you stop asking questions about your reality, when you stop researching what it is about your reality, then you become confined to your body, and you become confined to the body of the imprisonment that the system has designed for you. So this is why you can't ask any questions about what's going on in your reality. This is why you can't. It's literally taboo or uncool to, speak about reality itself, to investigate truth, to even communicate on a friendly or even a family basis about information that is at the infrastructure of this reality itself. We recognize that, and that's because each individual, it doesn't matter if you're a friend or a family member, each individual will always be the individual that they are, no matter who they are to you. So you're not going, everybody is on their own journey. At the same time, we have these familial connections that run by blood and, growing up relationships and so on and so forth. But when it boils down to it, what happens is, what makes the person is not the clothes. It's not your body. What makes the person is the decisions, the character of that individual, what that individual has chosen to be. If you have any kind of belief that we have any kind of free will, then you can understand that the individual utilizes that free will to become the person that they are. And if you water down each individual to this basic Lunchables version of a person, then that leaves a lot of room for people to externalize their reality in somebody else. So this is how you have grown men living vicariously through video games, grown men living vicariously through the NFL, grown men living vicariously through the NBA and Major League Baseball, and meanwhile they're stuck in their 9-to-5s and priding themselves in popping out a few kids, and that's what your life is. It's that simple. Don't question anything else. You have nothing else to experience in this reality. Your responsibility is to marry and reproduce, and that's it. And you don't have to look into questions of the soul. You don't have to look into questions of the higher mind. You don't have to look into questions of the balances of this physical reality with the non-physical reality, the balances and the relationships between the soul, the mind, and the body. You don't have to look into any of that information. You need to achieve the American dream and call it a day. Call it a life. Call it a death. That's what we are programmed to think and believe. And when I was watching this movie, there was a whole bunch of things that came off, and I'm just gonna kind of, shoot them out there. There might be some spoilers in here, so if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert. At the same time, if you're not watching, because I know people don't watch movies to give a shit about spoilers and all that stuff. At the same time, for people who are concerned about spoilers and plan on going to see this movie, if you watch movies like I do for the specific intent of research, like getting information and seeing how people are being programmed, and seeing it for that point, for a point of view, basically, to see it for, what's going on in that kind of way. I would say stick around throughout the rest of the video, because I'm going to go through the perspectives that made the movie more interesting to me, because I was seeing it from these perspectives. So there might be some spoilers within that. At the same time, there might be some additions to how you view the movie from seeing it from another perspective, by listening to how I've seen it and I've shared my perspective. So first of all, with these future-based movies, the first thing that came into mind when I was watching the movie is all of these future movies have a theme. They have this dystopian theme where there's a shitty part of the future city, and you have the so-called good part of the future city, and it's all based upon technology, robots, transhumanism, space, whatever it is. You have the outlaws, and then you have the in-laws, for lack of a better term, the law itself, that's still alive and well. And that's the whole point. These movies basically tell you, when they jump into the future, they're telling you, we won. We, as in the so-called powers that be. We're so powerful, we're going to take this same destructive system into the future. And in fact, it validates the dystopian mentality or existence of today. So every time that you go into this movie thinking that you're being entertained, you're actually being desensitized and installed with this apathy and hopelessness that between now and 2049, nothing's really going to change. In fact, it's just going to get worse. Yes, you might have like a sex robot doll. You might have a flying car. You might have all this other bullshit that they've been promising you with this limited frame of reality for so long. These doggy treats, but ultimately society will maintain. You will still have people who are in control of you and hell-bent on destroying the natural relationship with reality. Now, this is going into, keep in mind, like I said, what it all boils down to is the relationship between that which is natural and that which is unnatural, and keeping in an idea that that which is unnatural can be seen as like a parasitic consciousness. So the parasite has to, in order for the parasite to live and thrive and actually evolve, it has to dumb down that which is natural. So its host, it needs to dumb down the host, and it needs to convince the host that it doesn't exist and it's there for its benefit. So this is why parasites pretty much exist in your body without you knowing it. So they exist. If you were to know that they existed, then you would remove the parasite. So the parasite of the so-called powers that be exists without us knowing it in plain sight. So Trump can be seen as a parasite. You see where I'm coming from when I say that. Yet he's the president of the United States. They call the so-called free world. You don't see it as a parasitic consciousness, that you don't see him as a parasitic consciousness, because you have to follow your president. You have to, because if you support your president, you're supporting the stars and stripes. You're supporting the free world. You're supporting the first world. You're supporting the so-called evolutionary peak of the human experience. So if you were to go into the history of that free world, everything that I just listed off, that would be realizing the parasite. That would be unveiling the system itself, which is why the public education system has to start your historical research at a particular time, where they won't talk about certain things and they only talk about other things. So this is one way that parasitic system, the colonial Western civilization, they have to call themselves civil. If they're civil, then what they did to other people, those other people are what? They're primitive and savage. They're not civil. So the new world is based upon civilization, while subconsciously you're being programmed to realize that the old world is based upon Neanderthals, cavemen, primitives, and savages, and monkeys, animalistic behavior, when you actually realize it, that today is the most animalistic existence. They can't explain ancient structures. Like, to focus, if I were to make an entire video to focus, like a 10-second video to ask a question, 10-second video would be, how and why does society ignore ancient structures, how they were built, like Machu Picchu, Sacsayhuaman, even the pyramids is the most obvious one. Structures like Teotihuacan. All of these structures, like, has your modern society, has your, in their eyes, utopian society, has their evolutionary peak of humanity understood what those are? They literally don't exist. That question doesn't exist in the reality. No different than the question of the broken treaties of the United States of America. No different than the questions of, what do you mean by make America great again? It's never been great. It's been built on genocide and massacres. These are all these questions that you can't ask, and deflection will be the main antidote to that question being raised. They'll just create some kind of distraction, deflection, or whatever it is. These movies are distractions. These movies are deflections in the idea of forward progress. So you think, and you have, based upon your conspiracy theory perspectives and all this stuff, you think, oh yeah, they have all this technology. It's all there. They just won't release it yet. And then you have the question of, why don't they release it? If they have it, why won't they release this information? Why won't they release this technology? And the answer is because they make a profit off of your ignorance. Not only do they make a profit off of your ignorance, the other profit of being in power, being in control of the movement of consciousness, the movement of our environment and our society. If they can keep you in iPhone 4 world for 10 years and make, I don't know, $50 billion, as opposed to releasing the iPhone 10 back then and make, nothing, or half of that or less than half of that, then what's the better decision from a financial standpoint? It's obviously to keep your mouth watering, keep you begging and hoping for the next thing and drawing time out. That's what this is all based upon. Drawing time, stealing time. This is what these futuristic dystopian movies are. They're about drawing your time out and making you hopeless and apathetic to your experience overall and basing your reality completely on technology. The other side of that is to install transhumanism in the simulation theory. So while they are dumbing you down, they are synthetically dumbing you up into their reality. So you can take it as far as the unnatural that I explained earlier. The synthetic could be seen as, or this parasite could be seen as the what they call, oh man, what did they call them in the movie? Replicants. So these replicants are actually the ones in charge of this world. So you still have real people, and they're the authority. They're still in charge of the law and so on and so forth. In this movie, you have two worlds that are going on. You have the replicant world, and then you have the authority of the real world, the real humans. And in there, it's the police department. It's the LAPD. So you have the replicant world, which is, I think it was like Wallace or something like that. In the older Blade Runner, it was like Tyrell, the Tyrell Corporation. So this new replicant corporation bought the Tyrell Corporation, and that's the premise of this whole movie. So you have everything in society is now technological. So everybody is a replicant in that society. The majority is actually replicants now. So you could see this as the people who have bought into the mainstream reality. We're living in a replicant reality, a replicant world. So even the guy in the movie, like I said, spoilers, the guy in the movie, well, actually it's not a spoiler because in the beginning they show you that he's a replicant. So the replicant, the guy in the movie, that the main character, he's a replicant. He's in love with a computer software program that's been created by the replicant corporation that runs the whole city pretty much. So you have the people who run the city, the day-to-day, which is the technology, and then you have the so-called law enforcement that is using this replicant to hunt down old replicants who don't fit within the new society. So it's one city. It's not like the LAPD are the good guys, although they play the good guys in reference to the bad guys. So it's like bad guys and then bad guys. And then you have the bad guys, the single bad guys, which is supposed to be the good guys, chasing down old bad guys, which were actually the good guys, if you got it. Where I'm coming from. Eventually, they're the old bad guys are trying to create like a revolution with their replicants too against the new replicants, because the new replicants are all about whatever, and the old replicants have discovered that they can reproduce. And that's basically, so if you're concerned about the whole movie, that was basically what's going on in the whole movie. I told you there's gonna be spoilers in here. So anyway, back to it for people who don't really care about that. The revolution is being played for you. So when they tell you the revolution won't be televised, well, the opposite is actually true. Their revolution will be televised. The real revolution won't be televised because the real revolution exists inside of you. That's the only revolution that exists. It's because nothing or nobody can change anybody else. Only the individual can change. And when you have a massive amount of people changing from the inside out, that's the ultimate revolution. Removing the parasites of the external synthetic reality from the inside of your subconscious, conscious, and unconscious reality. Like tearing apart all of those systems throughout your soul, throughout your mind, and throughout your body, and then healing yourself. That's the ultimate revolution, to reconnect with that which is natural. And the synthetic parasitic program that surrounds us is based upon synthesizing your reality and sucking you into a battery program, which is, you can see that as the 9 to 5, the capitalism, democratic, any of this so-called powers that be program, the socialism, the communism, all that shit, all of it's designed to externalize your reality into this idea of this control comes before nature. So society as it's been built up today is the end all be all. There can be no better. That's why people believe in this system, because they believe there's nothing else. This is it. This is it. This is all there ever will be. It's the best of the best. And if you think differently, you are childish. You're to them, you're dangerous. Oh, we need to be focusing on science. We need to be focusing on technology. We need this and that. Those are completely indoctrinated people into the synthetic reality. They have bought into that university system, whether consciously or subconsciously or unconsciously. They have bought into it. I'm not concerned with whether they are confirmed shills, like consciously doing what they're doing, or subconsciously or unconsciously. It doesn't matter. The same effect happens. You are buying into a synthetic system. And if you have like followings on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, any kind of social media, that, and you have millions of people, you're actually having people follow that kind of mentality. That's what Hollywood is. Hollywood was the actual first social media in reference to this synthetic reality. The intent being that you are following a leader that, you know, doesn't care about you, that is ultimately there to limit your frame of thought, to limit your consciousness, to run your reality into a wall or off a cliff, while they actually live on the hill. They live in making millions of dollars. So the same thing could be said for like athletes. Only one in however many million is going to make it to the NBA. But you have how many millions and millions of people trying to fill that one slot, and like however many people are on the NBA roster, 15 people. So you have millions and millions of people trying to play on, trying to make one position on out of 15 on one team. So all of those millions and millions of people, the majority are not going to make it. The 99th percentile of them are not going to make it. But what has happened? They've given their lives away to that belief, to that hope, to that system, to that reality. That's the intent. That's the intent of, like, football does the same thing. However many people are on a NFL roster, at the same time, to boot, you have millions and millions of people dedicating their lives to that reality, because that's the one that pays, that's the one that has the fame, that's the one that's the biggest, given the sports benefit of the doubt, that's the top of your potential. Once you make it, you've made it, you did it, good job. You've accomplished something. So what happens is, you have people throwing, basically, when you play the numbers, when you do the math, people throwing their lives away for the gladiator arena on the number scale. Now, on a physical scale, their bodies are being destroyed. Just look at, football, kids bashing their heads together from like Pop Warner, from like little kids. Concussions in high school, concussions in college, concussions in, middle school, whatever it is. You're constantly ramming your body into another wall. And you get 2 for 1 when you have people destroying themselves. So this could be, so you have one person hitting themselves, hitting their head against another body constantly, every day. Practice, practice, practice. This could be carried over into like the understanding of having people fight themselves in the inner cities. It's the same thing. You don't have to destroy somebody. You don't have to mind control somebody if you have their parents mind control them. You don't have to. This whole system is designed for it to eat itself, while the so-called powers that be, or the 1%ers, or the haves, in reference to the have-nots, whatever you want to call them, they continue to progress while we continue to struggle and fight each other and destroy everything. So this is the foundation to the dystopian mentality that you're subconsciously programmed into when you go watch these futuristic movies. So millions and millions and millions of dollars go into programming you through making you believe that they wouldn't make a movie like this if it wasn't kind of true, or it wasn't going to happen, because your beliefs are based upon dollars. Your beliefs are not based upon wisdom. Your beliefs are based upon the illusion of authority through this Western civilization. And the Western civilization is based upon convincing you through dollars. This is why they had to convince you that money is freedom of speech. This is why they had to say, like, oh yeah, like once that was created, that pretty much killed freedom of speech. It was dead. So now they're trying to kill. So there's the First Amendment. Now the Second Amendment is going down too. So this is this replicant world destroying that which, those little last threads of possibly having a chance at fighting this control grid. It has to dismantle, excuse me, just as much as so-called truthers are out there saying, like for me, excuse me, when people ask for solutions and all this other stuff, and I always say like healing, a part of that healing is dismantling, deconstruction of this system. Just the same way an individual has to dismantle the parasitic programs for themselves that they've been using to destroy themselves, and destructive relationships and destructive mentalities, destructive relationships with themselves, let alone destructive relationships with another person. So once you start to remove those parasitic programs, then you can start to rebuild. If you start to build or rebuild and you haven't dismantled or destroyed that completely, that parasite, like a cancer, it'll come back and it'll destroy your new creation. This is why the system is trying to boot or reboot this whole one world government mentality through the new age perspective of everything is just love and light. We need to just make everything sustainable and just heal everything. Everything is okay. We need to just come together. Everybody is one and human. That's it. Stop being divisive. Stop being this. Stop talking about race. They just want to constantly play the role, because that's another parasite. Instead of a destructive parasite, it's a creative parasite. So instead of a war and separation parasite, it's a love and light parasite. Like I was talking about in channelers, in the channeling community. What makes you think if you can have channelers bringing all this information and they can tell you 99.9% of something that, you know, resonates with truth? But what is that 0.001% or 1% of reality that they're not talking about, that they're not revealing, that they're not sharing with you? That's that little bit of parasite that I was talking about that says if you don't clear all that out, like a cancer, it'll come back. One little pebble of it will multiply, because that's how the parasite works. It's not concerned with time. It has all the time in the world, because all the time in the world is based upon its host. It'll just replicate from one host to the next. So this is what this 2049 movie is based upon. The cancer, the parasite, has gotten so bad. So your transhumanism and simulation theory reality has become real. The parasite has become the host. It has become the 100th percentile or 99th percentile of the host. Well, in this movie, it's the 100th percentile because everybody is actually a replicant, and now the real organic humans basically don't even exist in this movie, and you don't really know who's who. But the movie sets out the tone that basically everybody's a replicant. Everybody's a replicant. And I think maybe the tone is set that the humans live in the slums and it's the replicants. I don't know. It's so mixed that ultimately it really doesn't matter because the system is equal. Replicants are equal to organic human beings. And in that world. And that's what today's world is prepping for. It's setting up that mentality. So, yeah, you have the seeding of transhumanism. You have the seeding of simulation theory. And one quote that the LAPD, the lady in here, Jenny from Forrest Gump, one thing she says in here to the replicant guy is that you've done just fine without a soul, because he was asking questions about like real people, and with her authority she says, don't worry about that, you've done just fine without a soul. This is the mentality that is being prepped through the organic experience, human experience. They are telling you, literally they have told you through their mouthpiece of Bill Nye on Big Think. Look for yourself. A guy asked him if we have a soul. Bill Nye says blatantly, oh, well, other people think differently, but I am saying there is no soul. There's only chemicals and neurons firing off in your brain, and that's it. It's that simple. Excuse me. So he's telling you you're a replicant. This is what the whole premise of transhumanism and simulation theory is based upon. Taken even further, back to the origins of that's to remove your meaning and your purpose in the nowadays. The foundation to that is the Big Bang. You have no meaning and no purpose because you're just a cosmic mistake from the Big Bang that created stardust. This stardust was brought together by this magical theory we call gravity that created this magical planet we call the globe Earth, and created these magical beings we call dinosaurs, evolved into these magical beings we call whatever, to monkeys, to Neanderthals, to you and your iPhone 7. Like, that is formalizing your replicant reality. You have no meaning and no purpose. You have no soul. You have no connection to any kind of creative intelligence, any kind of spirit. You are a computer. This is why the computer system, and you can take it even as far as like the Matrix, the robot world, the computers run the world, the machine world, convincing people to just go about their business while the machines run the world, and they're the batteries. The people are the batteries for the machine world. You can see this as like the replicants. So, yeah, I was taking it so far as to, asking questions about like, what is a replicant? Does it have to be like a physical thing, or can a replicant actually be a non-physical thing? Like, is this machine reality limited to the physical reality, or can it be non-physical? And that's when I was saying, oh, well, obviously to me, The non-physicality comes before the physicality. And if you have a physical replicant, that's because it's a result of a non-physical replicant. So this is why mind control is so much more powerful than physical control. This is why every day you have to be mind controlled through the news, the media, your social media, your friends, your peer group, your family. Everything is about mind control. So back to it before I lose my train of thought. The non-physical, a lot of the reasons why we are focusing on, or are made to focus on, like civil war and race war and all that other stuff, is because we are meant to not pay attention to the non-physical replicant world, which is through mind control, through spirit control. They can actually dumb down your consciousness, dumb down experience. They, as in this non-physical intelligence, because this system is very intelligent. You have to give props where props are due to this system. It's not dumb. So people who are just following the checker game of what's on TV, what's even coming through these so-called truther channels, Alex Jones and aggressive progressives with TYT, all that stuff, that's all to maintain the box within the box within the box. Like, it's so far down that you're not even getting into thinking for yourself, because they think for you. That's why Jimmy Kimmel's stupid ass was on there crying about, oh, a mass shootings. When are we going to talk about gun control? Sit your stupid ass. It's just ridiculous. I can't stand that shit. That's when they take it too far. Well, it's already been inherently taken too far, but they take it that far. Meanwhile, children are being killed all over the place. Then you have people in Vegas who are potentially being killed from stuff like this. But every day there's a mass shooting, in a sense, when you see the mass for the mass that it is. And it's because of these suit and tie wearing assholes that get on TV convincing you of one version of reality. So when those suit and ties start to cry to try to play your heartstrings, that's when that shit has just stepped into another world. And that's when it's just like, you know what? If you're still believing in this shit, you can't think any other way. You are happily enslaved. If you believe them crocodile tears, you're happily enslaved. And that's the only, there's nothing else. The line is drawn right there. That's where the line is, at Jimmy Kimmel tears. So this non-physical parasite, or this non-physical machine world, is actually thriving, parasiting off of your non-physical reality, your soul experience, through time, through your experience, through your physical reality, by sucking your time, sucking your life away, sucking your higher mind and your perspectives, through installing synthetic versions of your reality. So while we are consumed by the checker game of black versus white, you're not looking at the checker game of synthetic versus natural, and physical versus non-physical, or non-physical versus non-physical, when you see your soul empowered versus the non-physical parasites that are not only against your experience here in your soul, but the entire collective non-physical soul that is still connected with the organic human experience. Because you can take it to the extreme, and people personify it by calling it the devil and Satan and so on and so forth. Whatever you want to call it, I focus on the fact that evil exists. It does exist. I'm not going to personify it into a person. Evil exists. And then you have the opposite version of that, where you can call it whatever you like. In this example, I'll say life, like a natural life, where there is a natural order, a natural law, a natural way of being that is being threatened, or this synthetic reality is threatened by that natural order. So it has to synthesize your natural reality. This is why you're being genetically modified. This is where transhumanism comes in. This is where simulation theory comes in. Simulation theory is the intellectual parasite going live. The non-physical intellectual parasite that's being activated live. So the same thing was happening with heliocentrism. The heliocentrism perspective was the non-physical perspective of your universe going live. So that was the formalization of your lack of meaning and purpose from a universal perspective. So this is how this whole wave of emptiness has to be created and installed into your natural experience. So I'm just rolling with, how I was thinking and throughout this whole movie and how I've been thinking about. I've been sharing these perspectives for so long throughout this entire channel, but in different ways. So this is all related. People talk, what the hell is he talking about? This is all related to the movie. If you were to go watch the movie and see what I'm talking about. So you'll see in there the evil that exists is in these replicants trying to, like the machine world in the Matrix, trying to overtake the natural world. And you can see in these dystopian movies, it's always dark. It's always nighttime. It's always raining. It's always murky. I know that's to set the tone with movies and all that shit, but it also sets the tone subconsciously in your reality of this is what the future looks like. It's always going to be nighttime. It's always going to be raining. It's always going to be this. It's always going to be that. So they even hint in there with giants. I know they're holograms of like advertisements, like billboards, but even still, they have a giant person hologram that is this sex robot and this toy that, or a holographic holographic companion that's out there that is playing like she's basically the advertisement for, like, the movie Her. I don't know if you've seen the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix. That movie was based upon a guy who fell in love with a computer software, an app, the same app that's in this movie that created this holographic image that this dude's in love with is the same app. And instead in the movie, there's no hologram. It's just a voice coming through his smartphone. And all these other people are in love with this app too, because they've turned it into supposedly a real person. It was just a robot. It's a software program. But these people are like running around, dancing and spinning in the courtyard and all this shit. You see that movie? It's the same thing. So they're installing this love. It's synthetic love. Well, love in itself is just a generic ass word that doesn't really break down or doesn't really go in. It doesn't do real love any justice. The word love is a synthetic version of love that actually counteracts what real love actually is. So even using the word love is like eating a love Happy Meal. It's destructive. Ultimately, it's not real. It's fake. It's a drive-through version of what love really is. And the same thing goes for these future perspectives of reality, and which is why they're setting up your definition of love through something like a hologram or a software program or an app, because it's in redefining your perspective of love, and in a sense redefining your perspective of the reproduction process and our soul experience overall. They're actually dumbing down your entire reality. They're sucking you into a world that is empty, and in that emptiness, that's where parasites live. That's where this replicant world can thrive, because you think you're full, but you're full of parasitic Happy Meals. Your definitions are filling the gaps. Your parasitic definitions are filling the gaps for you. This is Hollywood. This is the mainstream media. This is the public education system, the university system. This is social media is the main one. It fills the holes in your organic reality. And as long as they, just imagine like Swiss cheese. If you put so many holes in Swiss cheese, you won't have cheese anymore. You'll just have holes down to the micro level of what those holes are. So this experience, this synthetic replicant consciousness is Swiss cheesing the shit out of the natural experience so that eventually the only thing that will exist will be the replicant, will be the parasite. That's happening individually and collectively. And they're doing it through fear, through pulling your heartstrings, fake ass emotion with Jimmy Kimmel, sucking your potential of fighting the system away. They're sucking that out. And they're sucking your positive, inherently at the same time, sucking your ability to expand upon this reality through your natural interactions and experience. Literally turning you into a replicant. So that's why I said, if the non-physical reality is actually happening before the physical reality, then the non-physical reality is actually where these replicants originate. So it's mostly, it's not about so much about races of people doing this. It's about the replicant race and the organic race, non-physically. So you have, I'm just using the word race for people who get triggered. Oh God, now he's creating another race. No, I'm just using this as an example to understand the non-physical reality. And I haven't heard many people do this shit before. So give me a fucking break from people who are gonna just start getting away in a comment section and just start going off about, whatever. And it's just, I'm just rolling with how I've been observing this stuff, and it's literally kind of like on top of the fact that language is so plain and linear and dead. It's a dead language. English is a dead language, ultimately. I mean, you can see with like the beauty of speaking Italian or even Spanish or some of the ancient languages that I don't even know about. They mean so much more. Like a sound or a word means so much more. Like I was talking about with love. Love, what is that? Love. They use love to sell sneakers. They use love to sell hats and burgers and shit like that, and a belt or something, a car. They use love to sell nonsense like that. So what does that do to what love is supposed to really mean? I mean, it's dead. Just like humanity. What is humanity? Oh, humanity is this, and this, monkeys and, smartphones and public education system and our forefathers. It's dead. They killed it. They've killed your experience. That's what the mainstream reality is. It's designed to make you kill yourself. Physically and non-physically. Physically and non-physically, it benefits the system. It benefits the replicant world. So to close this out, I pretty much hit on every base that I wanted to talk about in reference to this movie. I didn't even go into really the movie or the images. I know I'm showing them now. They might be a little kind of all over the place because I'm just going to put them on this audio and just put it out there so you can see it for what it is. I'm just going to burn through them now. So you have the guy in there. I told you the replicant world is pretty much on par with the human world in this movie, and they have the replicants, the bad guy replicants were trying to take over and they're trying to play God, basically. They want to find this one replicant that can reproduce, because they can't reproduce. They can only test tube reproduce, clone, or And that's where all this other cloning shit comes in too. It's not so much about the physical, it's the non-physical. When people are starting to ask about the clone shit. So you have these test tube replicants that are being created. This guy thinks he's God, or this replicant thinks he's God, but he'll never be that. He'll never be natural. He'll always be a replicant, which is why he despises the natural human experience. And that's why they're still in control, because they can reproduce without, having to, create this computer and all this other nonsense. It's real life. It's the most real thing that's out there. And that's what these replicants are they're striving to be. They're striving to be real, including this guy who considers himself to be the father, the god of all the replicant world itself. So you have those, and then you have the replicants, the old replicants, like I said, who are heading up the revolution, because the humans have already bought in. They said, okay, whatever, I guess this is the way life is. We, at least if we're not going to be overrun by replicants, at least we can control them. We can be in charge of them. So that's the synthetic humanity who's expanded, who's grown its power grid into the future. So that's that dystopian apathy and hopelessness that gets installed into your subconscious. They don't give a shit about you. There is no natural society out there. It's just everything that is bad is what lives on. That's the intent. That's the whole I win reality that gets installed into your belief systems. So you have these old replicants, and then you don't find out whether or not Deckard is a replicant of the old school from the first Blade Runner. You don't know if he's a real person or a replicant or not. But the thing is that he can actually reproduce, so it's still kind of like a question. You don't know if he's two replicants reproduced or a human and a replicant reproduced. You don't know. But it doesn't really matter, because it's all about just reproduction. That's the whole God thing, which is why when they have control over your consciousness, the vibration of your soul, pretty much by dumbing down, like by non-physically turning you into a replicant, they're playing God. They're playing the God that brings in particular vibrating babies into this reality through your mind control. So you have this McDonald's vibration getting married to this Burger King vibration. They're going to bring in a Jack-in-a-Box baby. And if you have that forever, then you can control the movement of that reality. Then you can just keep popping out Jack-in-a-Box babies forever. That will be forever sick and diseased, and the only thing that they could do, they're not going to be smart enough to revolt. They're not going to be strong enough to revolt. They're not going to have any kind of ability to challenge this system or even experience any kind of organic experience their own way. They can only be used as batteries and constantly be physically and non-physically de-evolved into the replicant perspective or vibration. So the old replicants in this movie are supposed to be like the good guys who are revolting against the new replicants who is basically like evil embodied. This is what transhumanism is. It's like evil embodied. It can't reproduce. It will kill humanity for its own existence. Like the AI. The AI, all the fears from AI, that's what these replicants, these new replicants are. And this guy who's playing God in this movie is. And then you have all these fears that are going installed at the same time. So you have love, you have fear, you have, what else did I miss anything? He's playing God. Another little side note, Deckard, the hell is his name? Harrison Ford. I was calling Indiana Jones. Harrison Ford, he lives out in this desert land, which is actually Las Vegas. Side note, it's Las Vegas that has been completely hit by like a desert storm. And everything is, he lives literally in a casino. Like, that's his world. It's Las Vegas. There's show tunes and all kinds of shit in this movie. So coincidence? I don't know, with all the Las Vegas shit going on. So yeah, he lives in there. He says some stupid shit about, you know, Elvis song comes on. He says, oh, I like this song. And then, you know, it's a joke. And then they're drinking. He talks about like what. So it's basically Sin City. So he still lives in Sin City. Meanwhile, the actual, like, L.A. So he lives in Las Vegas, and everybody else in the movie lives in L.A. LAPD, that whole thing. But that is the actual Sin City now. This is why you have that giant naked holographic lady walking around, selling, like, pretty much pimping. Being pimped, you know, so you got holographic hoes being pimped by this replicant god, claiming to be a god. So he not only pimps out physical replicants, but he pimps out holographic hoes, replicants, or they're not replicants, they're just holograms. And then the replicants are in love with the holograms. So this is that whole thing of McDonald's and Burger King having a Jack in a Box. But in that world, they can't have a Jack in a Box. They can just do nothing. They just keep, you know, having empty relationships and, you know, thinking that they're in love. But that's a hologram. And that's a replicant. And you've gone like 10 degrees away from humanity, but they still have this desire to be human. So what else is there? Yeah, everything in that movie is about the dystopian mentality: sex, technology, destruction, chaos, control, fake versions of love. And I think that's pretty much it. I think I pretty much covered all the bases of what this movie triggered for me as far as perspectives, and, you know, how I could share what's going on with the world, because these movies and stuff, they speak in metaphors to control your subconscious mind. So I basically take their metaphors of control and flip and reverse them, and then expand upon how they are actually real. Not to say that they are real, like people say, oh, this is really going on, whatever, however you want to go. This is just my kind of art, like how I'm explaining what I feel, what I see, and how this is really affecting us. Because yes, you can say, oh, movies are just bad and I'll never watch a movie again. Like, I was in that space too. I'll never watch a movie again. I'll never watch TV again. And I agree, that's very true, because it's designed to condition you. But for me personally, my mission or my work involves interpreting information. So I need this information to interpret the language, the physical and the non-physical language that is affecting us on every level. And I utilize this physical English language to try to help people see that stuff, because largely everything that I'm talking about is based upon the non-physical parasitic programming that is affecting us. Like when I talk about flat Earth and the effects of heliocentrism, the biggest part of that is you not having any meaning and purpose, stretching back to the Big Bang. You're just a cosmic mistake that was shat out of the Big Bang through dinosaurs and monkeys to you and your smartphone. Like it really is that simple from that space. And from that space, people don't even have to even go that far into the specifics of flat Earth. After that, you can actually live your life having understood, and understood what that actually means. Because you've now at least started to remove all of the mind control programs of this replicant university system, this synthetic version of observing your universe, which inherently is a synthetic version of observing yourself, the human experience. So that's just an example of, how all this stuff pretty much boils down to the non-physical, your soul, through from your soul to the mind to the body. When this system is working from the same way, from the soul, the mind, to the body, and from the body, the mind, to the soul, from their perspective, trying to work, or its perspective, trying to work its way up through being trapped in this experience. That's how I see it. I've gone into videos of what that really means in other other videos. I might go into that in upcoming videos, but as of now, this video has gone on long enough. You see what I'm talking about when I mention these perspectives of what's going on with this dystopian world and so on and so forth. And yeah, Las Vegas, the same thing. Las Vegas, is it so much about your guns and all that other stuff? No, it's about the power and control. I mean, guns are a part of it too, but what does it really boil down to? It's the fear. The fear of buying into their system, of not being able to address the deeper program itself, which is the system itself. If you're caught up in the checker game, you're not going to do anything about the chess game. And if you're caught up in the chess game, you're not going to do anything about the foundations of that chess game. So it's like a 3-tiered mind control program, just like the mind control programs of your soul, your mind, and your body. So that's pretty much it. I'll try to get some more images from this movie too. I only have like 10 or 12 or something, but I'll just have them scroll along so you can use your imagination where they match up, because I'm probably not going to try to mix and match them and listen to this audio to get it up. I'm just going to put it out there. So thanks again for all the support from new subscribers and old subscribers. I really appreciate it. Like I said in previous videos, I don't have Facebook and Twitter. I only have Instagram, and I only use that to put little clips out there and stuff like that. But I really do rely on people to share these videos. I know a lot of this shit is really controversial, and some people just want to kind of steer away from it or just watch it. But sharing the videos really does help grow the channel and the information, and not that, that's first and foremost. I'm going to do this regardless, but if you would like other people to see this information, if you think it's beneficial, then please do share it, like it, subscribe. I know YouTube is playing with the algorithms, and they're playing with hiding information. Like I said in a previous video, I wish I had screenshot it, because I actually did it with the Pizzagate videos back when Pizzagate was going on. I woke up one morning and I had lost something like over hundreds of views, and likes have gone down on videos overnight. Like, how can you unview? You can't do that. So YouTube is messing with stuff. This happened a week ago or 2 weeks ago. It was like it was a week ago. A Sunday I went to sleep, and I woke up the next morning. I went to sleep with it was 3,000 views on the Tom Hanks video, which I actually put in the recommendations for each video now, because if they're trying to hide it, then that means there's something in there that is actually good to be listening to. So it was The Alchemy of Tom Hanks, how it works, flat earth, and so on and so forth. But yeah, that video on Sunday had 3,000 views, and I woke up, it was like 2,900 or something like that. And it was just shocking. I mean, the wind's taken out of me again. I mean, because how petty can you get? This little funky ass little 6,000 subscriber channel, how fucking petty can you get? Google itself owns YouTube. Like, they're fiddling around with my little view section Come on now, something's going on. I mean, it just, confirms to me that what I'm doing is, on point. And then on the other hand, you look at all these, millions of subscribers and views, channels that are out there just on the trending ads showing you bullshit. So it's just another confirmation of the synthetic reality. Nothing that you see is real. It's all being manipulated. It's all being constructed a certain way. It's all being, placed in your reality for you to digest it a certain way, and it's fucking sick, really. It really is sick. So yeah, to end it all out, I guess that was a long version of asking people if you would like people to see it, and please share it, because if you share it, then at least it'll be open to somebody, even if it gets filtered or censored out through YouTube. I don't know about the likes. I'm sure the likes help with like the recommendations and comments. I'm sure comments help with like recommendations here and there, but ultimately a share is ultimately the biggest help here. So thank you for people who do share these videos. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.